YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today, I'm going through every single NFL team and giving you what I think is their biggest weakness for the 2021 season. You guys are playing along on our Twitter. I asked you guys the question about your favorite team. What's their biggest weakness in your opinion? We got preseason picks on our Twitter. We got constant NFL updates, talking during live games. So check it out. Link down below. It's also on your screen. And like, subscribe, full NFL coverage. Cannot wait for our weekly picks, power rankings, and more. All that content coming here. So hopefully you join us for that. Here's our Twitter. Unfortunate news with the Carl Lawson injury actually affected this video as well. It's a tough blow for the Jets. And then there's the question asking you guys what you think your team's biggest weakness is. And we got preseason picks there. Don't want to spoil all of them. Go over to our Twitter and check it out. I'll pin a link directly to those preseason picks down in the comment section. Going in order by division. We'll start with the Jets. The Jets, you could go something on the offensive side of the ball because you don't really expect them to be super consistent. Maybe Zach Wilson under pressure could be a little bit of a struggle. Cornerback unit, a little weak, but I end up going edge rush. Carl Lawson getting hurt actually made me go edge rush because they are very thin at that position. Is Vinny Curry going to be their standout guy there? They're going to have to dive into what's left in free agency, maybe the waiver claim period as teams start to cut players because they're going to need somebody else. Quinn Williams going to have to, carry a bit in terms of pass rush. He might have to line up at defensive end, which he can at times, even though he's an interior player. So, for this defense to work, to be as good as it's going to be, that's almost any defense. You need more pass rush, specifically from the edge rush position here. So, major blow there. Patriots, I'm going to go downfield passing. It gets better if Mac Jones starts, but he could be a little hit or miss down the field as well. But there's just not enough explosive plays downfield, specifically in the passing game. They do rely on the run game, the small ball. Will that be a thing again if Cam Newton's at quarterback? I don't expect much going downfield. So, a little more at Mac Jones for sure. But, not a lot of glaring weaknesses. If Stephon Gilmore for some reason isn't playing, during the year because he's not happy with his contract or whatever it may be, then I still think their secondary will be fine. So it's kind of the good thing here is they really don't have, a lot of weaknesses. This is the one that stands out to me. So we'll see who starts at quarterback. We're just in the preseason week 2. So, really excited to see who wins that battle there. I voiced my opinion. I think it should be Mac Jones. The Bills are going to go run game. I didn't really love the way the running backs were running when given the opportunity last year. But maybe a bigger problem was, play calling overall was pretty good, but when it came to how many times how many times you run the ball, throwing in runs in the game plan, that kind of coming together. I think the running backs all have upside. Singletary's still a young player. I think he's got upside. I think Zach Moss could be a heck of a player. He's got to stay healthy. They do have Breida as well. The offensive line's all right, too. It's pretty solid. Another year with the same exact unit going, but a little healthier. Guy like Cody Ford. So that's all good signs. I like the way they ran the ball a lot, and I like the way they actually ran the ball in the first preseason game. Can't take too much away from that. But, yeah, we got down to the playoffs last year with the Bills, and they're a little underwhelming offensively compared to the regular season. It's because teams were just purely game planning for the pass. If a team is just purely game planning to stop Josh Allen to the air, it makes Josh Allen and company's job a lot harder. So running backs got to do a little better, but they also got to run the ball a little more. It's going to make things easier. They are a pass-first team, don't get me wrong here, but they got to add a little bit more of a running game to that group, and I think they're trying to head that way. That's the good sign there. Back-to-back running games within teams in the same division here. The Dolphins going to go run game again. You can go run defense for the Dolphins as well. So not just they don't like the run over there. They don't like the run game in general, but a mixture between the running backs play and run blocking as well. It's not the best in football. I do think they're a little better in terms of pass protecting. We'll see when the season goes. But, yeah, I think a mixture between the running back's abilities and the run blocking. And why this is very important is there's going to be some teams throughout this video where They may look weaker at a unit on paper, but I went with something else because it's going to affect them as a team, how much they can win more. In this case, I think the run game being lacking is going to make Tua's job a lot harder while he's trying to step up, get his confidence back. And I do believe in him. I think he'll step up, but it'd be a lot better if the run game was, if defenses were fearing the run game a bit within the game plan. So that's a little tough for the Dolphins. NFC East teams, Washington. I'm going to go pass protection. The good news for Washington is they don't really have a glaring one. Pass protection wasn't the best last year. Quarterback play does improve. That does play a part. I just think I guess health comes into play as well. We see Scherf missing games last year, or throughout his career. But if he's in there, the interior pass protecting, I'm not really worried about. Leno, if he stays healthy, they could be okay. But if he gets hurt, like he's gotten in the past here, then that could be a problem as well. And he had a little bit of a holding issue there. Constantly getting his hands on jerseys and then getting called for last year. So. Yeah, I think the pass protection and, right tackle is going to be Cornelius Lucas. Is Cosme going to have to step up? So it's somewhere where they definitely could get better in that category. Other than that, I love the defense, love the running game. They get better at the receiver position. They get better at quarterback Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick, a little hit or miss, though. He can have those games where he's turned the ball over a little too much. So I guess that could be debatable. We could throw that up here. But I think they get better at the position. The Giants, I'm going to go QB play. Really thought about this one. This is an interesting one because you could go offensive line in general or pass protection. We could go because I do worry about that as well. Kind of banking on some guys stepping up. Daniel Jones certainly wasn't helped in terms of his pass protection, his offensive line there. So they make his job a lot harder. But at the end of the day, Daniel Jones, some silly mistakes that he makes, they're just really on him. There just happens to be pressure on those plays. There's other quarterbacks that get pressured actually more, and they don't make those types of mistakes. So I end up going with quarterback play. Daniel Jones really has to step up. Just making just poor decisions, and he just can't really seem to hang on to the ball when he's getting hit as well. And at one point last year, they kind of tried to turn it into a game-managing offense where they don't risk turning the ball over. They kind of just run the ball, play small ball, and let the defense win the game. But then they get no offensive production whatsoever. So they're trying to change things around the quarterback. Kind of says a lot there. So he's really got to step up this year, but so does the offensive line. So we'll see if they progress. Cowboys, I'm going to go durability. Some people will say, somewhere on the defense, maybe pass defense is the biggest weakness, looking at the roster. And you can't really argue with that. But what's going to affect this team the most is, the durability, if they're healthy or if they're not. That is what's going to affect this team the most because it is no secret that this team is an offensive identity team. It's an explosive offense, and that's what's going to decide if they win games or not. I think the defense will be better. Bringing in Dan Quinn, coaching on the defensive side was pretty poor last year. They also had, they didn't have the best roster on the defensive side of things there. So I still think they'll struggle, but I think it'll be better. It's not really not going to make or break this team. Of course, the defense was as good as the offense. Then it'll be an elite team all around, but you're asking a lot from any NFL team. It's the offense. This team could be very good if the offense is very good, and what's deciding that is the durability. You look at Dak Prescott with his injury last year with his ankle, but then you look at his shoulder situation this year, which seems to be like a baseball injury, which is odd. Sounds like he's going to be okay, though. That's the good news, but you still kind of wonder. And then you got Leo Collins and Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith has kind of been an ongoing thing with his durability concerns, but Leo Collins missed all of last year as well. And Zach Martin's been, sometimes having those injuries as well. So, and then you look at on the defensive side, Leighton Vander Esch, guys like that, also come into play. They finally added some decent free safeties, but they're Malik Hooker and DeMonte KZ, who are injury-prone free safeties. So it's kind of, I mainly look on the offensive side is what's going to make or break this team, but it's kind of a theme, unfortunately, throughout this roster. So that is what will make or break the Cowboys here. Eagles, I get the good thing for the Eagles is they don't have like a glaring one. Okay, yeah, they're bad there. I thought about durability because they've had their injuries in the past. Already starting with Dillard. Lane Johnson has had some injuries. So I thought about that a little bit. But what I keep bringing up, when I keep talking about the Eagles, I look at teams that succeed, usually, every year. They are strong in terms of pass rush, in terms of offensive line play, and quarterback play. Look at the Eagles. I think they got a nasty pass rush. The offensive line's pretty solid if it's healthy, so that's where you could argue durability here. But it's really just looking at the offensive line. And so it leaves it up to the quarterback play. If the quarterback play is good, this actually could be a very scary team, believe it or not. So, Hurts impressed last year, but his consistency, I think could be a little better. Struggles a little bit under pressure, so really not developing, knowing what to do. So more reps, I think, will definitely help over time with that. So that's what I went with for the Eagles. Ravens next. I'm going to go downfield passing. This was tough to do this because I do believe in Lamar's arm. I'm not one of those people that really he can't throw. I'm definitely not one of those people. He has the arm talent, that's for sure. I think it's a mixture. He's a little inconsistent, gets a little wild on the throws. Sometimes the hardest ones he hits and it looks pretty in the layups, even if it's downfield, just a routine open receiver throw downfield. He kind of misses those sometimes. Offensive line played a factor in that last year. Receivers definitely played a factor. They're dropping the ball. So it's not just Lamar when I say downfield passing, downfield receiving, same thing here. But we know they're an elite, dominant running team. We know they can play small ball in the passing game. But for either one, teams can stack the box. When you want to get the teams out of the box, you got to be able to be more of a threat downfield, and that could make this offense insane if they can do that. That changes everything. I actually I thought about something else for them, is kind of adjusting the game plan a little bit, because they do have the same game plan every single week, both sides of the ball, which most teams do, and it works for the Ravens. But you look at when they play teams like the Chiefs, looking at the defensive side of things, their blitz game, man coverage doesn't really work against them, and that's kind of, they don't really have big change for that, a big solution for that. And offensively, there's kind of just run. If they kind of have a sloppy start, a very sloppy start, can they kind of get out of that funk? Can they switch things around? Can they rely on the pass game? Kind of goes in this a little bit. So very good team, but there are some things you wonder. But again, if they get more consistent in terms of downfield passing, we're talking about a very scary offense, because teams have more to fear. The running game gets opened up, then it gets crazy. The Ravens are probably the team to beat if that is the case. It's possible too. The Browns, I'm going to put interior defense here, and I'm not safeties. Safeties could be considered interior, I guess, if you're looking at the whole field, north and south, but I'm not considering that. I think the linebacker unit will be better, but it was pretty poor last year the way they played. I think it'll be better, but how much better? I think the interior defensive line is worse. They do get Billings off of opt-out. He's a good run stopper, but somebody's got to step up. Not a big believer anymore in Malik Jackson. Is he going to stay healthy too? Maybe a guy like Jordan Elliott steps up, but still worry about the interior defense, but not a lot of glaring ones for the Browns. This is really it, because they improved the secondary. They got more speed on defense. I think better tackling. They're better in coverage, like I said. I think there'll be a little better pass rush, which was already fine. We're already loving the offense, everything about it. You get Odell back, second year with their coach, so with their system. So everything else is looking great for the Browns there for sure. Steelers, I'm going to go pass protection. We know the offensive line changed, and everyone's, we're on agreement on paper. It looks like maybe the worst offensive line in football, but, their run blocking could actually be better, believe it or not. The run blocking, even though the offensive line looks worse and it might be worse, run blocking specifically, I think it might be better. I think it helps. They got Najee Harris. They got better at the running back position there. But pass protecting, I definitely think it takes a hit. I think they'll struggle a little bit. They're going to have to get the ball out quick. A lot of small ball, running the ball, and then quick passes. So I guess you could have put downfield passing game in here, because they weren't really too effective on that last year either, and that could be still a problem with this here. But I went with pass protection. We'll see. It's a totally different offensive line for the Steelers, so we'll see how it is. Bengals offense line in general, so we're not looking like the Steelers. Steelers are better off in this scenario because it's just so specific. The Bengals, the entire offense line, I worry about it. I do think it actually could be better, not saying much. But you got to protect Joe Burrow here, and it's still a worry. But you look at it, again, in general, Joe Mixon's a very talented back. I don't think anyone's debating, otherwise. But he hasn't really been able to get going or stay healthy, really, because of the run blocking. So run blocking, if you're able to be effective running the ball, it makes things easier for your passing game, your quarterback. So maybe that's an even bigger one, is just run blocking in general. It might be bigger than pass protection, but we're going to put both up here. So hopefully it steps up. Riley Reef, right tackle, it sounded pretty good. Spain in there full time. We'll see if one of the younger guys, they got a couple draft picks that it seemed pretty decent. We'll see if they step up. So, again, I think it could be better. Lions, you may have thought I was going to go with the receiver unit, and the receiver unit can be better. But I don't know if that's really going to make or break this team, because I think their plan is to run the ball and play a lot of small ball in the passing game, and it could throw teams off early, and they'll go quick, maybe some tempo. So I don't, again, the receiver core, receiving unit could be better. But I don't know if that's what's going to make or break this team. I think tackling is still going to be a problem. One of the worst tackling teams in football. And I think that in general, the defense gets better, because they were also one of the worst pass defenses, in terms of coverage. Pass rush too. It got a little better, I thought, last year. And run defense in general. And I think we can put some of the blame on Patricia there with the way he calls his defense, kind of a multiple scheme, not a fan. So I think they'll cover better. I think they'll stop the run a little better in terms of hitting assignments, being in the right place, filling gaps. But it does seem to be, for the most part, the same players out there. Some guy, Kuda going to be healthier. Some changes. I do like adding McNeil. We'll see if he starts, or Anu Zarike, Brockers. But other than that, it's pretty much the same players, and tackling was a major issue. Like I said, coverage and, kind of assignments will all get better with the better coaching staff, but this tackling, it can, but I still worry about it a little bit. Does it get a lot better, because they were constantly missing that first tackle, and it would create a big explosive play, so that's actually something I worry about for the defense, kind of like last year. Vikings, no shocker at all here. Pass protection's been a problem for quite a long time, and this offseason, it kind of felt like they made their offensive line better. It really felt like that. They drafted pretty well, we think, in terms of the offensive linemen, and they still got young guys developing. It's a very young offensive line. It should be solid for the future, but at the moment, and you can't expect it to change overnight, but at the moment, it looks very messy. Their first-round pick, Christian Darrisaw, hasn't fully practiced yet, full padded practice, full go. Had a little bit of an injury there, and they're constantly moving guys around, trying to figure out where guys fit. It's still a mess. Didn't want to put offensive line in general, because their run blocking is actually pretty decent, as bad as their pass protection is. So, but that is still a problem, protecting their quarterback there, which was they allowed the most pressure, worst pressure percentage last year. So they had a high percentage of plays, highest in the league, where they allowed pressure on their quarterback. So it could be the same thing, unfortunately. If they aren't worse, I don't think they'll be too far off. So that's really not a great thing there. Bears, it's going to be the same thing here. Division rival of the Vikings, it's the same thing. You do thought about like play calling in crucial situations, looking at third downs. They really struggle to convert third downs. They changed their system late last year. They got going a little bit. I think they're heading in the right direction. So I went with pass protection. I like their interior offensive line. But their tackles look a little rough. They kind of went in a little bit of a rebuild. It's not really funny, but it kind of is interesting that they went kind of in a rebuild mode. They kind of let Leno and Massey walk, and then get the young guys in there. Tevin Jenkins, who had back surgery, he's gonna miss the whole year probably. Hopefully he can come back, but I don't think he'll have him suit up and start when he comes back. And then they end up, what's kind of weird, what's kind of funny about it is now they end up with Jason Peters, who I think could still play. Legendary guy there, playing this far at his age, but can he stay healthy? So I guess health of the tackles kind of plays a part in this, but I do worry about, protecting the edge, especially because they want to do this rollout offense. Will the quarterback be able to roll out in that area? So that's something that's pretty important to them there. So we'll see how they perform. But pass protection wasn't that great last year. Once they kind of switched the scheme a little bit, they actually played a little better. So we'll see. Packers are going to go run defense. Has kind of been their only problem. It's been a very good team. I think poor angles, some missed tackles, guys missing assignments a lot, not filling gaps. Coaching change, so hopefully that fixes it. They also had Devondre Campbell in there at the linebacker position. I think that could help a little bit. Kenny Clark getting back healthy. He was already polished though, but that him being in there, definitely helps. So they could be better, but it's been pretty brutal. I think it could have been a lot worse, maybe leagues worse in terms of the stat department if the Packers offense passing game wasn't so good where, they would get up right away, where teams have to play keep up. They're not running the ball as much as they want to against them. So that's going to be better. I do think it gets better, but it's still the weakness of the team. There's just not many. They're very strong on offense, both passing, running. Defensively, I like their secondary, and they'll be good in coverage. They got some good pass rushers out there. So it's really the only thing there is run defense. Colts, I'm going to go quarterback consistency. I thought about edge rush, because they don't have Justin Hughes and Nico Autry anymore. I do like the Kwity Paye pick, so hopefully he's solid. But I wish they did have more edge rush, but the defense will still be solid. I think this is a bigger one, quarterback consistency, because Carson Wentz, or if it's him or not, even the other guys. But we'll talk about Wentz because we expect him to be the guy for most of the year. We could put durability here because will he be healthy the whole year? But he still has that big playability in him. But he has the poor mistakes or holding on the ball too long, reacting to pressure that's not there, making a poor decision, just kind of throw the ball up for grabs. So that we just don't want those to show up because the Colts believe they can win by kind of slowing that down, run the ball, play some good defense. So they don't need him to kind of get inconsistent, get wild on them. That would kind of hurt their chances there. So that's kind of something that's, could be holding them back. Perhaps Titans, kind of a unique one. I kind of talk about this with the Ravens. It could be one for the Ravens. The good news is the Titans really don't have a glaring one. Defense played pretty poor last year, but the cornerback unit's totally different. The pass rush unit is totally different. Bud Dupree, Danico Autry, but yeah, 2 new corners out there. So it just feels like a different defense. They're able to do, a little bit more because they have the right players out there. Offensively, it's just hard it's a pretty talented team. It's hard to find a glaring weakness, but adjusting the game plan is something I put up here for the Titans. I could explain that more really on both sides of the ball, but looking at offense, their game plan is to come in there and pound the football. And if they start a little sloppy, if they start behind, it's tough for them to come back because they have, they got to adjust, and it's not really part of their game plan. Or sometimes they stick to it. They still are running the ball, and they don't really have the time to do that. So it kind of really throws them off. We look at the Ravens game where their game plan didn't work, and they had to kind of get out of that and play like a whole different role, whole different team. Offense, it didn't really work out. And, defensively, they kind of got a unique defense. Sometimes they're only rushing like 3 guys, and they're dropping an edge rusher back in coverage randomly. And when it's not working, but they kind of stick to it, So adding some big-time players in defense, hopefully that changes that a little bit. But that's kind of something, I guess kind of adjusting from the game plan or having, having a versatile game plan maybe, or maybe coming from behind, changing your game if you have to come from behind. So a little bit of those things I want to see them overcome, kind of unlike they were able to last year. But they did a good job adding in kind of some weak spots this year. Jaguars, I'm going to go pass defense. I guess a combination of coverage, which I do think it gets better. I like Griffin adding him. They drafted a few guys. That helps. But, they weren't really getting any pressure on the quarterback last year. I do think they get more. But a combination of those things I still think could be a little bit on the weaker side. So curious what they're going to do with their defense. Exactly. Is it going to be like a multiple scheme, which never really works out unless you're Bill Belichick? So there's still some questions there. Starting to get a little scared about the offensive line, too, a little worried maybe. So maybe that could be one. But it looked good on paper. Guys just got to show up. Texans, I'm going to go pass rush actually because – they take a hit not having Deshaun Watson, quarterback. But, they got a good running back group. I think the offensive line kind of gets better. They can, they can run the ball. They can play some small ball, but they got guys like Brandon Cooks. They had Nico Collins. These guys, they can get some explosive plays downfield, too, to open that up. So, I'm not saying their offense can be great. It'll struggle, but I don't know if that's what's really going to – I guess looking at it like the way that, okay, you go from Deshaun Watson to Tyrod Taylor. If you look at it like that, yeah, that's going to make or break the offense. But I look at, defensively, they don't just, where are they going to get their pass rush from? Shaq Lawson off the edge hasn't really been that productive getting after the quarterback. A man who's got some upside. Whitney Merciless he's been a little underwhelming, and he really doesn't fit this scheme, but we'll see how they use him. Will they have a blitzing plan? How the interior rush be? They're kind of banking on, maybe a Blacklock steps up. So they're really lacking in the pass rush department, and that's one of the most important things in football, whether we're talking edge, interior, blitz, whatever it may be. So that's going to make the job harder for the guys in the back end as well. So that's why I went with that for the Texans. Saints, I'm going to go receiving core. I think I've been hyping up Marquez Callaway. I think a guy like that can step up. Camaro's going to be almost like a receiver like he is. So that's going to look pretty good. Somebody else, there'll be other guys that play well here and there. But, just think about, I'm still stuck on they got to go Jameis Winston. I kind of want Jameis Winston to be the starter. I'm not a big believer in Taysom Hill at quarterback. But you want Jameis Winston ball. He can get you some big plays, explosive plays. He has big playability, get you downfield game going, a high passing attack. But he needs to have a little better receiving core for that to be in full effect. So that's kind of why I went that route. I could have went interior defensive line because they really lost some guys there, and Onyemata suspended. But they're so well coached in that area that I couldn't really go there. So I went with the receiving core there for the Saints. Buccaneers, defending, we got to go very specific here because the Buccaneers are a very complete team. I think defending small ball, I think some teams were able to be a little effective in the passing game. I'm not talking about the running game. They're very good stopping the run. Just small ball, quick ball, passing game. I think teams were able to hit. They got better at it over time, but I think teams were able to got to get them on the first two times they play. Really, every time they played the Saints, 3 times they played the Saints, they really struggled against that. I think even the last time the Saints were in that game, and the Buccaneers offense just played better compared to the other 2 times where they just got destroyed. The first time they didn't get destroyed, but they got outplayed. The offense got going a little more, and they made that extra play. Devin White getting his hands on the ball. But they still struggled against that small ball, and they play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They play the Packers and the Chiefs, which are kind of downfield, mainly the Chiefs. They look so good. The defense looks so good, and it is good, but it looks so good against the deep ball teams. I think small ball is how you beat them. Maybe too much of a cushion from their corners, possibly good young corners, but that's really it. Like Tom Brady to take care of the ball a little more, but it's tough to put Tom Brady, taking care of the ball up here is a big weakness. But very, very good team, obviously, very complete team. Panthers going to go quarterback play. Sam Darnold's play has been pretty poor, and, can he be better? Yes, he can be better. I would not expect him to be a whole lot better, though. That's very rare. There seems to be, I could have went play calling here. I still like this coaching staff. Still believe in it, but play calling was not good last year. It was not good. So I don't know if it's not like this quarterback guru, offense guru coaching staff that was so great last year. They're going to turn Sam Darnold around completely. They can make him look a little better, sure. But Sam Darnold has really struggled to put his team in some bad situations. He was in a bad situation too. But that's kind of the problem here. The defense is solid. It could be better, but it's a young, athletic defense. They can win them some games is my point. They got weapons. They got a running game. If McCaffrey's healthy, I guess I love their receiver core. I could have put offensive line. That's kind of the thing. Quarterback play, offensive line. That's something I thought the coaching, on paper they looked pretty poor in terms of the offensive line last year. But they looked a lot better. Not that they were great or anything, but they looked a lot better than what they looked like on paper. It looked like they could have been one of the worst offensive lines in football last year. They definitely weren't close to one of the worst. So I do think the scheme for that is solid, but the offensive line looks even worse on paper this year. But that's where I kind of trust the coaching staff, actually. But with the quarterback play, it's going to make or break this team. But again, it could be offensive line, more of a blame than Sam Darnold. We will see. They got talent though. Falcons. I'm going to go edge rush. I actually thought about offensive line. I start to worry about it a little bit. We're so used to Falcons having a pretty good offensive line. The last couple of years have not been that great, and I still worry about it. And never been a big Caleb McGarry guy, and then you worry about his health there at the right tackle position on top of it. Lindstrom has not been working out either. That's a guy I still think he can kind of hit his stride, hit his upside. other than, they could still use somebody else in there as well, another guard, I guess. But so you do worry about the offensive line, but the edge rush, you got Grady Jarrett dominating the inside. Fowler can be solid. He has had his moments throughout his career. But even him, he's got to be better. And then opposite of that, they need a lot more there. So that is that's something, safety group could be a little better, but I think it starts with the edge rush there. So a couple things you can debate there. Broncos going to go quarterback consistency. I think Locke could be solid. Bridgewater could be a solid quarterback. Just neither have been consistent, really. They turned the ball over a little too much last year as well. They have the weapons. They have the running game. They have the offensive line now. They have the defense. We know that. Durability I could have thrown up here because there's been some crucial guys getting hurt last year, maybe over the last couple of years. So I could have put that up here. But if the quarterback stays more consistent, I don't need the quarterback to get a lot better. I don't need him to be ridiculous. Quarterback stays a little more consistent. Doesn't put their team in bad situations. They can be a very, very dangerous team here. So I have to go with that. But I did like the way Drew Lock looked in the first preseason game. Can't overreact too much from that. Raiders, I want red zone offense and that kind of execution and play calling. Both play a part there. It's weird because usually like third down offense, red zone offense, most of the time they're not really connected, but most of the time they're pretty similar. Not really the Raiders' case. I thought third down was pretty good. Play calling is pretty good there. But then you go to the red zone, it's the complete opposite. So, but looking at last year, you probably thought maybe I'd go pass defense, pass rush. They had Yannick Ngakoue. I think guys like Crosby could step up. They had some interior pressure. In the secondary, they get better by just the scheme change. They're going to run a lot more cover 300 Gus Bradley. I believe in a guy like Trayvon Mullen. They had Casey Hayward. They have Trayvon Marek for the safety position. So I think the coverage actually, it's not going to be great. It's not going to completely go from worst to first or that area, but I definitely think it gets better, so I didn't want to put that up here. Offensive line was so good. Now you kind of worry about it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to drop off that much. I think they do a good job coaching, so I did think about that, though. I just think red zone offense. I think, Derek Carr wasn't wise with the ball, and he didn't really turn the ball over, but he almost wants to throw the ball away too much in the red zone. Running backs hesitating in short yards on the goal line, just go, and play calling's been pretty bad. They were kind of insisting on, I felt like they were insisting on like Witten, tight ends other than Darren Waller, at times, which is odd. Pretty predictable at the same time. So it's a kind of a collection thing with the red zone offense. Hopefully it gets better here. Chargers going to go durability. They don't really have any glaring ones other than that. So that's kind of the good thing. Offensive line, I think, gets better. It still could be a little, hit or miss. So I guess you could argue that. But you look at durability. You look at Austin Eckler, for sure. You look at Brian Bulaga, big-time right tackle. You look at Mike Williams if you want to throw him in there. You look at defensive side. Joey Bosa playing hurt or kind of sitting hurt. Derwin James, obviously a big one. So, yeah, star players, important players with some durability concerns. So that's it. If everyone's healthy, if these guys are staying healthy, then it's a scary team. So that is what's going to make or break this team here. Chiefs, very good team. They don't really have an obvious one. They're going to go edge rush. If Frank Clark remains in there, if, his minor injury popped up and some off-the-field issues. So if he remains in there, it's not like they're in trouble. It's not really like that. He was a little underwhelming last year, but I think he shows up in the right moments still. But if he's out of there, they got a disaster going in terms of the edge rush. But even with him, he's got to step up, and they really got, they were looking into getting Melvin Ingram even before the Frank Clark thing shows up, and they couldn't really pay, enough. Maybe they wanted to kind of give him a real cheap deal, even though I think he signed for a cheap deal with the Steelers. So they kind of knew they kind of needed something, but they were a little low on the cap, at that time. So yeah, that's something that could get better. On paper, they don't look. Looks like you can throw on the Chiefs a little bit, but I think they play a little better than they look on paper. But I guess it could be connected. If they're not getting enough pass rush, well, I should say edge rush, because they're getting pass rush from the interior with Chris Jones and now Jaron Reed. That could affect the secondary a little bit as well, but it's not a team I'm overly worried about. 49ers, I'm going to go downfield passing. Definitely could have went durability, because this is like the team that's been beat up every year for the most part, team that you really worry about it. So you definitely can go that. They've been healthy so far. Knock on wood. I got to keep knocking on wood with the 49ers, the injury. They've been healthy so far. A couple guys hurt before official training camp started, but other than that, I just think downfield passing, and I don't trust Garoppolo in that category. They could have won a Super Bowl if he was a little better in that category. He's a little inconsistent with his passing, especially downfield. And you throw Trey Lance in there. Trey Lance has the arm strength, incredible arm strength, has that big playability, can hit that wow play downfield, but he's going to be a little wild, a little inconsistent if he's the guy as well. They're so good running the ball. They're very good with their small ball, getting receivers the ball underneath. But teams will stack the box. It's kind of like the Ravens, a little different play style. We'll see some similar concepts if blocking schemes if they go the Trey Lance route as the Ravens, but it's different, obviously. But I compare them because if they can stretch the field out, stretch the defense out, it's going to make everything better, and they'll be scary as hell. So that's why I went that, because if they do get more things going downfield, which they can, Trey Lance can get going, scary team. Cardinals, I'm going to go coverage. Almost went play calling, because play calling was pretty bad last year. Calling outside runs when they should be running the ball inside. I kind of said that backwards. I felt like they started every series running the ball inside, playing for third down. Wish they would have done a little more outside runs, especially with Kyler Murray. It's so dangerous in the open field, and they get in the red zone, and then they're trying the outside runs when you should not. Goal line running outside. They're backwards. Play calling on third down, not too good. So play calling was pretty bad last year. So I thought about that. I think it gets a little better. I think it was a learning experience. I did think it got a little, I think it could get a little better. Hopefully, kind of hoping here. I want coverage, though, because, cornerbacks take a hit. Buda Baker's kind of on an island back there, and he's kind of a do-it-all guy. See him in the box sometimes. So, maybe they'll be better. The pass rush looks good. Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt, so that can make their job easier. But I do think you really can throw on the Cardinals. So that's why I put that up here. And we're going back-to-back here. Seahawks, I'm going to go coverage. Lose Shaq Griffin, obviously. It feels like their best corner might be Ahkello Witherspoon, which he has upside. I did like him as a prospect. He has upside. Sometimes it takes a corner to change teams, or it takes a corner quite a few years to get going. Diggs still solid, but declining a little bit. His job was kind of made harder, I think, over the last few years. And then Jamal Adams, who can cover, can make some plays, but he's more a huge playmaker, within 10 yards, 5 yards in the backfield, getting the quarterback, making plays there. So I do think coverage and pass rush does need to be a little better, but I think they'll be a blitzing team. They'll find unique ways to get after the quarterback. It's all on the coverage. Teams will try to get the ball quick on them, and I think teams could probably air it deep down the sidelines against them as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Other than that, though, very talented team. Again, I think they'll find unique ways to have that defense play better than what they look like on paper. And the offense, I trust, even though we didn't really trust them at the end of last year, I'm kind of trusting them. So I went coverage there. And then for the Rams, you got to go durability. It's an extremely, extremely talented team here. In the off-the-ball linebacker unit could be better, so we could have put that, but I'm really not worried about their defense. I don't know if it's going to make or break this team, obviously, but durability will. Cam Akers already hurt. You got Darrell Henderson in there, who I think is a solid player. It fits this Rams offense. They like him. He's got durability concerns. If he goes down, that's a brutal loss with Cam Akers already out. Matthew Stafford either playing hurt or out hurt the last several years. He already had that little bit of a scare with the thumb that he had surgery on not too long ago in training camp. He's good to go, obviously, now, but it pops up. There's some durability issues there. Andrew Whitworth, their left tackle. It's a little bit of a scary situation there. Defensively, Taylor Rapp got hurt last year. Terrell Lewis, who I think could be a big-time player if he's healthy. So I suppose there's some guys on defense too, but the big one is kind of on offense, and they had Deshaun Jackson, who has the durability concerns too. So, some big-time players on offense, mainly what it is. Team could win the Super Bowl if they're healthy, really. So that's what's going to make or break this team. So that is my biggest weakness for every single team, kind of what's going to make or break them, I should say, if it continues to be weak. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. We're already talking about it on Twitter. I see the comments on that Twitter post filling up there, so love to see it. Talking during preseason games on there. Got preseason predictions. Got NFL updates. Follow that Twitter link down below. Also, subscribe to the channel. Full NFL coverage. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.